Feeling some school spirit today. So how about a little Florida Gator typography? Doesn't have to be for Florida Gators. It could be anything reptile related. And a fun little Photoshop project, I think, for you. So let's begin. I think the first thing that would be good would be to make our pattern. I want to make like a scaly type of pattern. So let's start here, create a new layer, and go to filter and render clouds. Doesn't have to be anything special. After that, go to the top, filter, and filter gallery. There's this nice one in here underneath texture, already set up for us right here. Stained glass. Some people see stained glass. I see alligator scales. And stained glass up here, cell size 10, border thickness 4, light intensity 0. Really doesn't matter because we can always scale it later, but I think this looks good as is. So I'll click OK right here. And there's our alligator skin. Now, it's black and white. I want to add a color to it. So let's go into the layer style here. And if I go to color overlay, here we go. Here it is. I don't want that color. But if I find like this green color, 6E9102, and you can change it, make it whatever you want. You can make it more grayish or more greenish, however you want it to be for your scales. It's up to you, but this is what I'm going with. I think it's a good color. Click OK. And for the blend mode, I'm going to select overlay. Here we go. And I think this is going to look pretty decent. I'm going to click OK here. And now I need to save it as a pattern. If I go up to the top, edit, and define pattern, I'll call this scales. OK. And then I'm going to hide it. I'm going to get rid of it for now, making it invisible. There we go. Okay, next thing that I'll do, create a new layer here. And I have this typeface that is called Alphabet Soup. Alphabet Soup. I'll put the link in the description where you can find it. It's free. And to start here, let me just increase this a little bit. What if I go like, make this typeface some like 95. This is 10 inches by 10 inches is my canvas, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. Just in case I didn't, as you could probably tell with the rulers there. And I'm going to put in here Florida. All right. And this is going to be like a mouth. It's going to be like an alligator mouth. So here I'm actually going to change some of the sizes of some of these letters to kind of form it a little better. So this L, I'll go like 120, make that one a little bigger. This one up here, let me try like 180 and, ooh, not there, my bad. Let me highlight that O. Jeez. And go up here to the fonts, 180. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, I think these two are okay. Then this is kind of like the, I don't know, nostril type of area. I'm not real equipped of all the parts of the alligator. That gives me kind of the curved look on there. I do think that looks pretty good. I really do. All right. So that's going to be the top part. Then I'm going to go ahead and type down here. And this I might have it be, oh, let's go 105. So it's a little bit bigger than the 95s that were up here. And here I will type in the all uppercase. There we go. Gators. And these can be the same, all the same size. I think that'll work good. I might give it a Control T and kind of rotate it down a little bit. Kind of open this mouth. Maybe about right there. And I might even just then select both of these layers. Control T. Move this up to there. Alright. I think that looks pretty good for right now. We can always adjust it later if needed. Kind of center it a little though. Alright, good. So to make that look like an actual alligator skin, then we can go into these layer styles. Let me move this Florida layer above Gators. There we go. Just to organize it a little bit. Going into this layer style. And first thing that I'll do is pattern overlay. So if I select that on here, and if this is 45, actually looks pretty good right there. But this isn't really a repeatable pattern, so see this line that goes through there? I don't really like that. By moving my cursor over the canvas here, I can slide that over. I'm just going to move that vertical line out of the way so I can see the rest of the scales in there a little bit better that way. So that is the first thing that I want to do. I also want to go up here to bevel and emboss, and I want to have inner bevel selected. I want chisel hard selected. The depth of this, the percentage, let's see what 100 looks like. That doesn't look too bad. 100, 105, somewhere around there. Then I'm going to have this selected to up. And I think 7 actually will work fine for this for the size. For the softening though, 12 is too much. So I'm going to go down to 4. Give this a little bit of a 3D appearance right there. And I do think that will work for the bevel and emboss. Finally, I want to go here to the drop shadow. And for the drop shadow, normal up here is fine. For the opacity, I'm going to use about 60, lower it a little bit. And 2, 5, and 4 looks pretty good. I see that shadow underneath there a little bit. I can change the angle a little if I want to, depending where you want that shadow to appear. I like it kind of coming through the bottom right hand corner right there. I think that looks pretty good. Going back to this pattern overlay, if it's harder to see the scales for you, you can always increase that a little. So, you know, originally mine was at 45. If I wanted the scales to be a little bigger, I could type in 55. Make it a little bit larger in there. 50. I'm going to try 50 for this. And again, you may have to readjust it to hide those lines. And I think that is looking pretty good. If I go up here to blending options, let me double check just a few other things. Normal all up there. Bevel and emboss looks good. Pattern overlay normal 100%. Yep, I think we're in good shape with that top one. Once I have that done with Florida, Gator's really easy. I could just right click Florida and copy the layer style. This one's always hiding from me. I always seem to have a hard time finding that one. It's like right in front of me. Copy layer style. Jeez. And then I can go here to Gator, right click, and then paste layer style. And check to make sure I don't have those lines there. You can go into that layer style if you want and change that arrangement just a little bit if you need to, so it's maybe not matching perfectly. Alright, and I think we are set with the gator part right there. Okay, next thing we want to do. Let's go up here, make a new layer. I'm going to make a tooth. All right. I would have an easier time doing this if I was on Illustrator, but for right now I'm just going to use my ellipse tool, and black is fine for the color. It doesn't really matter at this point in time because we're going to put a color overlay a little bit later. All right, and then I'm going to duplicate that layer and maybe make this one be just a little taller, perhaps. A little more narrow, I guess. Something kind of like maybe this. Overlapping like that, I think will be okay. Alright, and then this one here, I'm actually going to control click this oval. And then I'm going to delete that oval, but it's going to keep the selection there. I'm going to rasterize my ellipse, right click and go to rasterize layer, and then I'm going to press delete, and I have this little crescent here. Okay, then one more time here I'm going to take an ellipse, and this one I'm going to make it be any other color other than black, just so I can kind of see what's going on here. Alright, and if I zoom in, and again, there's probably some kind of better way to do this. This is just how my brain works. I would have an easier time with Illustrator, but it's a little different on here. Here we go. I think that'll work pretty good. Alright, then if I merge these two layers together, use my magic wand tool, and select in the top area, press delete, and then I can use Control L and just bring this output level down to where it's the same color. Alright, and here is the tooth. Alright, now for this tooth we're going to go into the layer style, and we want to find a few things here. We are going to change the inner bevel, the bevel and emboss. Let's have inner bevel and chisel hard, and the depth on this one is going to be, let's go like 550, something that's more drastic than what we did with the other layers. The direction is going to be up. Size is going to, we can keep that at 12, that'll be fine, but for the soften we want it to be more gradual, so let's go 12 right there. And then I want to go to color overlay and make it actually be the color of a tooth. So for this one, the blend mode, I'm actually going to have it, I'll change the blend mode when I'm done. Let me enter the color first. FFF 9D5. Let's use this off-white color. And instead of overlay, let's go normal. Okay, and then I'm going to add one other, well, two other things here. Let's go inner glow. Inner glow, let's select that. And for this right here, I'm going to choose the color on this, and let's go like 272727. Yeah, and have it be this like darkish gray, and I'll click OK right here. And after that, I do want this to be on the edge. I want it to be around the outside edge. And if I go up here to opacity, we are probably okay at 61, I think. Technique here, we'll have softer. We want this to be on the edge. And let's go 0 and 9. We may just lower this opacity just a little bit more. see what 15 looks like there. Yeah, so that way it's kind of lighter in the middle. I think that'll look good right there. Then also, when we have that finished up, we can add a little drop shadow. And the drop shadow on this one, let's go maybe a little, like 80%. And I think 3 for the size looks pretty good. And there we have the tooth. So with this, then we can kind of bring this here, Control T it, and scale that down. And I'm going to put this one just right there in that letter A, and then I'm going to move this layer. I'm going to click and drag it down beneath the Gators layer, so it's laying underneath. Then after that, I am just going to collapse this layer here. I might rename it from ellipse to tooth so that it makes a little more sense. And then we can just right click and duplicate that layer. Zoom in a little bit closer, and then we can just move that duplicated layer, use Control T, and kind of change up the sizes and the width of those just by using that transform tool. I think works pretty nice. Spacing them out between the top and the bottom jaw, I guess. For the next part on this, we can add a new layer here beneath those, so this will just be right above our invisible pattern layer. And I'll just shift backspace to fill and choose color. And this blue I like, we'll go with 3F6 CFF. And OK. And for the next part, we can actually go to Unsplash here and find a nice texture here. Got it. Alright, and I'm just going to look in here. Rough texture. There's a couple good ones in here that we could use. I like this one right here. Unsplash, everything on there is for free, so we can download that for free. Alright, show in folder, then bring this up, and then I'll just click and drag that image over the top of the background here and size it appropriately. And let's go with a, for the blend mode, multiply. It's a little strong, so I'm also going to bring down that opacity of that layer to 30%. There we go. That's a little more subtle in there. I think that looks good. All right, and maybe we'll put a little border around this, and this will be under the texture also, so I'll put this right above the blue layer and right underneath that texture that I got from Unsplash. And let's select our rectangle tool. Alright, and I'm going to draw a square here. I'm going to flatten out or sharpen those corners, take out that radius. And the fill of this is going to be, actually I'm just going to leave it like this right here, and then if I go in the layer style, it'll be a little bit easier to edit in here, I think. So the first part here, we could go to fill opacity, take that down to 0. Then I'm going to go here where it says stroke, and for the size, I'm going to go 10, the position. I'm going to put on the inside of this. And blend mode normal. And the color for this first color is going to be white. And then I'll add another one here. And this is going to also be on the inside. The size for this one is going to be 20. And for the color of this one, I'm going to go with some Gator orange. I'm going to use this FF7125. Alright, and then I'm going to add one more. It only shows stroke on there twice. I can click the little add button to the side. It'll add a third one. And this one's inside. This one will be 30. And the color for this will also be white. And click OK. And now that that is done, I may just call this one border, so it makes sense. Control T, and if I kind of rotate this around and resize this a little bit, I don't know, you could make it match perfectly, but just to make it a little more interesting, I'm going to have it not match the edges, you know, straight up and down. I'm going to use this kind of angle, I suppose, and kind of eyeball it a little bit, get it as to where I like it on there. Alright, and this looks good. And now I can move this gator head in here. Resize it a little if needed. You can make it a little bit bigger if you want to. About like that, I think will work all right. And then if needed to, one last time, going in here to this pattern overlay, realign that a little if we need to. Just trying to get it how I want it to look. Alright, I think that looks alright with that. So we'll click OK. And the last finishing touch, I guess, that we could do, not really anything necessary, but up on the top layer here, let's go to our custom shape tool. And at the very top, we have these legacy shapes and more. And I believe this one is in all legacy default shapes. And there's this grime and, yeah, here we go, grime and vector pack. And then choose this splatter. Alright, and the splatter for this, for the color, I'm going to go with like a light, almost, I mean real pale blue for this color. And then we'll put this over the top here. I know it doesn't look real great right now, but it will. All right, let's go about, no, I don't know. Let's try something like that. You can always resize it later because it is a shape there. It's like a smart object deal. And if we go in that layer style for that, we can change this. So let's start off here with the blending options. And for the blend mode, we'll leave that as normal, but for the opacity, let's bring that down to about 40%. And the fill opacity, let's bring that down almost all the way to 5%. And if we select inner bevel, or not inner shadow, bevel and emboss, and we go to inner bevel, And here for the technique, let's select smooth. And let's bring that depth down just a little bit. You can kind of see what we're doing here, just kind of making it look like a water splash or something over the top of that. So that looks good. Up for the size, let's cut that down to 1. And for the soften, let's also bring that down to 1. So it's just going to be real subtle here. And inner glow, let's select that, and instead of this green color here, we'll just go with the white to bring that highlight up a little bit. For the blend mode, let's take it out a little. Let's go screen. And for the opacity, let's do it 10. 10 looks pretty good. Maybe somewhere between 7%. Noise, we'll leave it down as 0. And for the technique, softer is good, edge is good. For the choke on this, we will, let's see what 30% looks like. Let's bring that up a little. And for the size, let's select 10. You can barely see it on there. You don't want it super visible. You know, if you want to, you can, I guess, bring up this opacity just a little bit, but boy, I don't know. I wouldn't go much higher for that than where we were at. You know, I just think the lower the better, the more subtle it is, the better that it's going to look for that. So yeah, I think I am going to leave this at 7 or 8. And if you want the other part to show up again here with the blending options, you can bring that fill opacity up a little bit if you need to, but I think right there looks pretty darn good for that. And there we have it. There's our typography. This one's Florida Gator theme, but as I mentioned before, you could make this anything kind of animal related, where it doesn't have to be about Florida Gators. If you're a fan of snakes or lizards or anything like that, you can do something with scales using that technique. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think in the comments if you like, and we'll catch you on the next tutorial.